Dear listener, before I begin the story, I kindly ask you to subscribe to my channel. This is the best motivation for me as I get started. Now, let's begin. In today's society, men often approach the selection of a suit or automobile with greater consideration than they do when choosing a lifelong companion. Consequently, an increasing number of marriages culminate in separation, resulting in their offspring developing into discontented individuals. I cannot recall the precise source of this statement, but it accurately reflects the current state of affairs. The primary cause of marital dissolution in our era, in the majority of instances, is the unfaithfulness of one of the partners. While the motivation behind male infidelity is generally comprehended by all, particularly women, akin to, he didn't indulge sufficiently, female infidelity is a phenomenon that is not universally denounced and is frequently rationalized by women themselves. What compels a woman to engage in extramarital affairs? Purportedly, a plethora of factors: an oppressive spouse who fails to recognize her as a woman, lacks affection for her, fails to satisfy her intimately, and so forth. The genuine reason is an absence of love, a deficiency of butterflies in the stomach. When a woman resolves to be unfaithful, her intellect typically shuts down. She disregards the repercussions and exists solely through her sentiments and passions. From my perspective, female infidelity is far more devastating than male infidelity. An unfaithful woman decimates everything: the family unit, the spirits of her offspring, her husband, her parents, and most significantly, her own soul. All extramarital affairs share one commonality. Eventually, they are discovered, and the majority of affairs conclude in the same manner. It is exceptionally uncommon to construct something novel upon the sorrow of those who were once close. It is virtually inconceivable to generate new contentment. And then, after a period of time, the second phase of the affair commences, an endeavor to return to the family. I adore only you. I was foolish. I cannot exist without you and the children, and so on and so forth. The outcomes here vary. Some accept the prodigal wife, while others do not. But irrespective of the outcome, there will never be joy in such a family. I wed my cherished girlfriend when I was 20 years old. She was the same age as me, and our future domestic life appeared evident and serene to me. Our love story unfolded according to all the conventions of the genre. We encountered each other at a friend's birthday celebration, courted for nearly a year, and then got married. She was my first woman, and I fell in love with her head over heels. When my parents expressed uncertainties about the impending marriage, I declared that I would gather my belongings and simply go to her. In general, we got married. A year later, our son was born, and 3 years after that, our daughter. I genuinely, truly loved Emily. That was my wife's name. Over the years, this sentiment intensified. I had no cause to suspect her of infidelity, as she never provided any grounds for it. I trusted her completely, without demeaning her with jealousy. Like everyone else, we occasionally quarreled, but the quarrels did not escalate into scandals. We very rapidly found common ground and reconciled. That's how we lived for 17 years. And then everything changed for the worse. Emily abruptly became irritable and started picking fights over nothing. She drastically altered her image, dyeing her hair brunette, knowing full well that I never liked that type of woman. She acquired new clothes and perfume. My wife began to regularly stay late at work, explaining it with far-fetched reasons, and our intimate life came to naught. Such changes in family life could not happen just like that. I started thinking and came to the conclusion that it all started after the class reunion. So something must have happened at that reunion that changed my wife so much. I knew some of her classmates and decided to carefully ask them about that reunion. From them, I learned many interesting things about her. It turned out that in the 10th grade, Emily had a romance with a classmate named Michael. He was quite a handsome boy and was very popular with his female classmates. After school, life separated them. He went to another city to study, got married to the daughter of a factory director, and had a child. Emily grieved for a while and then hastily married me. So they existed in parallel in different cities until Michael was transferred to our city, and they crossed paths at that ill-fated reunion. They met, and the old love rekindled. In general, it's a rather banal situation that happens very often. Well, and then it started. They slept together that very evening, and then couldn't stop. Emily looked for any reason to be with her lover, coming up with excuses that any secret agent would envy. I already knew the last name and address of Emily's lover. All that remained was to catch the lovers red-handed and close this topic. I must say that I felt very rotten. My love for Emily began to be mixed with a feeling of disgust. The knowledge that another man was trampling my wife left no prospect for further life together with her. But still, before making a final decision about the fate of our family, I decided to talk to her first. I didn't directly ask her about her lover. In response, she threw me a grandiose tantrum with hysterics, accusing me of all sins and, most importantly, of her ruined life. The motif of the scandal was that I was a scumbag. Not only had I ruined her life, but I also dared to doubt her honesty. Oh, women, your name is treachery. I waited a couple more days. One evening, when my beloved once again stayed late at work, I went to the address where Michael lived. He opened the door himself, and when I asked where Emily was, he nodded towards the kitchen. Emily was sitting on a stool with one leg tucked under her, smoking. When she saw me, she kind of shuddered and said angrily, "Why did you come? I love him." Just like that, without preamble. In principle, everything was clear to me, but I made one last attempt and tried to remind her about the children. But she said that the children would stay with her and her new beloved, but let them live with me for a while until they got their lives in order. I no longer had the strength or desire to continue the conversation. I told my wife that I would no longer talk about this topic, that our communication was over, and that I would file for divorce myself. Emily turned towards the window, letting me know that the conversation was over. I silently left the apartment, went down the stairs, opened the entrance door, and stepped out into the street. A light rain was drizzling, as I remember now. I turned up my collar and walked along the wet houses. I don't remember that evening very well. The last evening when I was still married to Emily. My heart and soul ached. Maybe I shouldn't have given up. Maybe I should have fought for my wife, tried to bring her back. But something told me that it was all in vain. She wouldn't return. Before me again stood those empty, indifferent eyes, the eyes of a stranger. I felt so unbearably bad that I bit the sleeve of my coat so as not to scream. When I got home, I explained to the children that their mother had gone on a long business trip. I couldn't bring myself to tell them the truth, although I understood that someday I would have to do it. But my son asked me, "Did Mom leave for another man?" I nodded. He hugged me, and we sat like that with him until midnight. The next day, I filed for divorce. 2 months passed. The red tape with the divorce was not over yet. We were given time for reconciliation. The children live with me. All this time, Emily was in no hurry to move in with their new dad, and then the classic of the genre. One evening, my already ex-wife came to me. She declared to me that she had left her Michael because, according to her, she realized that she had never loved anyone but me. "Forgive me. I'm a scumbag and a wretch. Do with me what you want, but just don't send me away." I listened silently to her moans and explained that her former husband had died there that evening in her lover's apartment. I also said that I would not prevent her from seeing the children, but I would never live with her again. Emily looked at me with eyes inflamed from tears. In them, I saw both the pain of repentance and the plea for love. With the last of my strength, I managed to keep myself in check, and Emily left. That same evening, she swallowed pills, trying to end her life, but a neighbor found her and called an ambulance. Emily was saved. Her parents took her from the hospital. Several times she called and asked me to forgive her. Her mother came to my work, also trying to persuade me to forgive Emily. But I remained adamant, although my heart and soul ached so much that it was impossible to say. I still loved her. I still loved her, and understood that I would never be able to love anyone else like that again. Emily now lives with her parents and regularly visits the children. She tries to establish at least some kind of relationship with me, hoping that I will still forgive her and we will be together. Maybe I would have forgiven her if I didn't love her so much. With that, the story comes to a close. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.